The finals got a pretty big update a few days ago that brings a host of balance changes, bug fixes, and also the game's first limited time mode. We'll talk a bit about that, but also where the game is at from a general perspective as well. And by saying that, your feedback is always valuable as well in the comments. So you can now play solo, at least for some time, in the finals, which might be a cool thing for some players. Personally, I'm not sure if a free-for-all mode is what I was hoping for when it comes to a new game mode in the finals, especially since it's literally a banquet game mode, but instead of playing with a team, you're now playing against 12 other players, competing individually. Let me know what you think about that. The last time I made the finals video on my channel, I was talking about the effects of having SBMM in casual game modes and also the fact that it can be hard and sometimes also frustrating to play the finals when you're playing alone, meaning solo queuing. I was therefore hoping that Embark in the latest update would consider to implement a timeout for players that are leaving ongoing matches in order to protect solo players even more. In addition to that, I was also hoping that the matchmaking system would be updated so it is able to spot people that are playing together as a team so that they are foremost matched against other teams instead of teams put together of people that are solo queuing, which is the case for me most of the time. That could also help out solo players more in the finals, since I do believe that a majority still in the finals are people that are playing by themselves, at least in the casual game modes. Because we all know how hard it can be to play with random players in a game such as the finals that heavily relies on teamwork, but even harder doing so if you're facing a somewhat organized team of friends that are voice communicating with each other. That's also a reason why I believe that other team-based game modes outside of the finals concept of 3 players against 3 or 4 teams could be a thing for upcoming updates. Sure, a free-for-all mode is fine, but then make it a non-objective game mode instead on a smaller part of the map so people can go ham with their loadouts in the hunt for kills or tags instead. Alongside this new solo game mode, they have also improved the cheat detection and also moderation tools in the game. Embark Studios says that they will now be able to restrict cheaters with more confidence and also stand firmly behind bans. I guess we have to see in a few weeks from now how that plays out. There has been updates also when it comes to everything from abilities, gadgets, game modes, maps, and also weapons in this patch. One thing though that didn't go that well was the fact that the recoil patterns broke more or less on many weapons in the finals, making the recoil patterns quite inconsistent or even non-existent, if you will. But it seems as if they have fixed that now just some days ago. If you have seen or noticed a difference, then feel free to fill in here. We mentioned matchmaking earlier, which is usually a topic in most online FPS games. I've heard from other players that it has been issues with the matchmaking in ranked. It seems as if people are complaining about the fact that the matchmaking system aren't handling the differences between ranks when putting teams against each other that well. On the other hand, I've also understood that the ranked system in the finals, at least as it works now, are not based on your actual skill as a player, but more how much time you've invested in just playing the game. And in addition to that, some players have been saying that you basically just have to qualify the first round and you'll still go up in rank in any of the other matches. If this is the case, then I believe Embark Studio has to look into this ASAP, since I couldn't see any patch notes about the matchmaking in ranked when it comes to this update. So I'm therefore asking you, is this how you've experienced the ranked matchmaking as well in the finals? And also, have you read or heard anything when it comes to a future update or change regarding the ranked matchmaking system? Yes, there's always opinions and thoughts around a fairly new game such as the finals, and one other thing that has to be mentioned is of course the overall balance between classes within the finals, since they have been doing things about that as well. Well, having 3 classes such as light, medium and heavy in an FPS game with their abilities and gadgets is a fun concept and thought then in its best moments can give the players some pretty crazy and almost quirky gameplay moments when they clash together alongside with the environmental destruction in the game. But it also makes it tricky to balance from a developer's perspective, especially from a competitive gameplay perspective, I would say, since their strengths and weaknesses are so far from each other when it comes to these classes. With that said, it's gonna be a hassle to balance and even think that you can balance these classes like perfectly equally if you get get what I'm saying. Instead, I'm a bit afraid that too many overall class nerfs will after a while take away a bit of the fun and also what separates the classes and makes them unique. If that's the goal, then just put the medium class alone in the game with healing beam and defibrillators for everyone to use. That doesn't sound too fun, I believe, but sure, Embark needs to do changes accordingly when they see that it's really needed in their game. But I also believe that sometimes players haven't properly learned or played or understood a certain class enough to really get what's going on before they decide to complain about unbalance or asking for a certain nerf. The finals has now been out for some time, and you might say that the honeymoon is over, which often means that you, after some time, months after release, are better off to see how many players that are around still playing the game and that might be considered to be or become the core community of a game. When it comes to player count, that usually means that you'll see a drop-off when it comes to players leaving the game some weeks after release before everything settles. Sometimes it doesn't really settle, and that's where it starts to get tough or even bad for a game, since it then continues to bleed more players. If we take a quick look into the Steam charts of the finals just to get an indication what's been going on recently, we can see that the finals has dropped around 35 to 40% when it comes to people playing the game since launch. And that's if we're talking peak players only. It means going from around like 242k players down to around 143k players. As said earlier, this often happens more or less to new games. And the question is more, why has the game lost players? And maybe even more important, what does Embark needs to do in order to nurse and feed a healthy player base in the long run? Updates similar to this newest 1.5.0 update is most likely needed, maybe also alongside with new game modes and content overall to keep the most busy players busy also in months to come. I've already talked about skill-based matchmaking in a game such as the finals and what it might do or not do when it comes to the overall experience across the player base, especially in casual game modes. And maybe, just maybe, that might also be a reason why some of the casual players has chosen to look for another game instead of continuing on the finals journey, you might say. I've already talked about that in a former video, so if you're interested, you might want to check it out as well. So I'm putting up a card here, since skill-based matchmaking is always, or more or less always, a controversial thing, at least when it comes to online casual shooters. With that said, I want to say thank you for watching, and if you want to know more about the actual update here, maybe in detail, since I did not want to do that in this video, it's already been several other YouTubers out there doing just that, then you can do so by going here, you see the address, reachthefinals.com and so forth. And with that said, I just want to wish you a good day, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.
Socialites are rejoining the
Let's see how our contestants deal with a sky laser that targets those who stand still for too long.
RPG en route! Will the remaining contestant on the jet setters... RPG fire! Contestant on the steamroller is facing the opposition all alone now.